The signal from beyond. The signal arrived on Earth during a fierce electrical storm that had knocked out power to half of North America. Had it not been for Dr. Mira Catri's obsession with backup generators at the Arecibo, Io Observatory, humanity might have missed it entirely. "I'm getting something," Mira said, her eyes fixed on the monitor displaying a pattern she'd never seen before. "This isn't background radiation or satellite chatter." Behind her, Sam Reynolds glanced up from his tablet. "Probably another military test. They never tell us about those anymore." "No." Mira shook her head, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "This is structured. There's a deliberate pattern here. The sequence repeats exactly every 42.7 seconds. Sam's expression shifted from disinterest to curiosity. He abandoned his work and moved to her station. "From where?" "That's the thing," Mira said, pulling up the directional data. "It's coming from Kepler 186. The significance wasn't lost on either of them. Kepler 186f was an exoplanet in the habitable zone of its star, 582 light-years from Earth. Too far for any human transmission to have reached it. Too far for any reply to return this quickly. Get the director," Sam whispered, his voice suddenly dry. "Now." Within 24 hours, the signal had been verified by 15 independent observatories across the globe. Within 48, the United Earth Space Authority had established a high-security communications center in Geneva. By the end of the week, Commander Eliza Vega found herself standing before the UESA Council, trying to make sense of why she'd been summoned. "Commander Vega," Director Chen began, her voice carrying across the circular chamber, "your service record is exemplary. 3 tours on Mars, leadership of the Jupiter mining expedition, and the successful defense of Titan Station during the solar flare crisis of 2138. Eliza stood at attention, her military posture ingrained after 15 years in service. "Thank you, Director. We need someone with your particular skill set," Chen continued. "Someone who can make difficult decisions when Earth is 19 light-minutes away." A holographic display activated in the center of the room, showing a 3-dimensional representation of what Eliza recognized as a starship design, far more advanced than anything publicly acknowledged. "The Pathfinder," Chen said, noting Eliza's recognition. "Our first true interstellar vessel, fusion-powered, with experimental fold drives based on Dr. Nakamura's theories, built in secret over the past decade." "For what purpose?" Eliza asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. "For this." Chen nodded to an aide, who activated another display. It showed a decoded representation of the alien signal, now translated into visual data. A star map appeared, with a specific location highlighted. "We've received an invitation, Commander, or perhaps a summons. We're still debating which. From whom? That remains unknown. But the signal contains specifically calibrated mathematical constants that could only come from an intelligent source. It's deliberate, Commander. It's meant for us." Eliza studied the star map. "And you want me to go?" "We want you to lead the mission," Chen corrected. "The signal includes what we believe are navigational coordinates. The Pathfinder can reach them in approximately 14 months using the fold drive." "Why now?" Eliza asked. "Why me?" "Because humanity needs someone who won't back down, even when facing the unknown." Chen's expression was grave. The signal included one more component, a countdown. "We have 18 months before it reaches 0. Whatever is waiting for us at those coordinates, we need to arrive before that deadline." 3 months later, the Pathfinder departed Earth's orbit with little public fanfare. To most of humanity, it was simply another research mission. Only the highest levels of government knew its true purpose. Alongside Commander Vega, the crew included Dr. Catri as Chief Science Officer, Lieutenant Jai Wade as Navigation Specialist, Dr. Marcus Ford as Exobiologist, and Major Darius Jackson as Security Chief. Their journey through the void of space was largely uneventful until the first fold drive activation. The technology worked, theoretically compressing space ahead of the ship while expanding it behind. But the physical toll on the crew was unexpected. Vega awoke from the first jump with blood trickling from her nose, ears ringing. The others fared similarly or worse. 17 more jumps to go. Jackson muttered darkly as Dr. Ford treated his ruptured eardrum. "We'll be corpses before we arrive." Vega refused to accept defeat. "We adapt," she said firmly. "That's what humans do." And adapt they did. Dr. Katri developed a neural stabilization field that reduced the biological impact of the full jumps. Lieutenant Wei adjusted the drive configurations to create gentler transitions. By the 10th jump, the crew had acclimated enough to remain conscious during the process, witnessing firsthand the surreal distortion of space-time through the observation ports. 14 months after departure, the Pathfinder arrived at the coordinates in an uncharted star system never before observed by human telescopes. A massive ring structure orbited the system's second planet, clearly artificial, clearly ancient, and clearly active, with energy signatures pulsing through its framework. "We're being scanned," Wei announced as the Pathfinder approached cautiously. "Multiple frequencies, including some we can't even detect properly." "They're thorough," Chatri observed. "The scan is mapping everything. Our ship structure, our biology, even our electronic data storage. Are we in danger?" Vega asked Jackson, who monitored the tactical systems. "Unknown," he replied honestly. "But they could have destroyed us the moment we arrived, if that was their intention." A new signal reached them, different from the first, but with similar mathematical underpinnings. This one, however, included visual data. The main screen of the bridge activated without command, and the crew found themselves staring at an alien entity. It resembled nothing from Earth. Multiple limbs moved with fluid grace around a central body that seemed to shimmer with bioluminescence. When it spoke, the words came through the ship's communication system in perfect English. "Humanity, you have responded to our call. You are punctual, which bodes well." Vega stepped forward. "I am Commander Eliza Vega of the United Earth Space Authority vessel Pathfinder. We received your signal and came as requested. May we ask whom we're addressing?" "I am Nexus, representative of the Arbiters. We have monitored your species since you first transmitted electromagnetic waves into space. The time has come for evaluation." "Evaluation," Vega repeated. "For what purpose?" "For your continued existence," the alien replied simply. "You will dock your vessel with the concordance ring. Prepare yourselves for trial." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the crew in stunned silence. "Trial." Jackson was the first to recover. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means," Vega said grimly, "that we're not explorers or diplomats anymore. We're defendants." Dr. Ford laughed nervously. "Defendants for what? We've barely left our own solar system before now." "I'm more concerned with continued existence," Katri pointed out. "That sounded like a threat against our entire species." Vega studied the massive ring structure. "We came all this way for answers. We won't get them by running. Lieutenant Wei, take us in. Major Jackson, be ready for anything, but no aggressive posture. Dr. Katri, record everything. Whatever trial these arbiters have planned, we'll need every bit of data we can gather." The Pathfinder approached the concordance ring, guided by automated systems that took control once they came within a certain proximity. The immensity of the structure became clear. It was larger than Earth's moon, constructed from materials unknown to human science, and humming with energy that made the sensors fluctuate wildly. A docking port opened like an iris, perfectly sized for the Pathfinder. Once secured, atmospheric readings confirmed a breathable environment beyond their airlock. "They've adapted their environment for us," Ford noted. "That suggests some level of accommodation, at least. Or they simply want us alive for their trial," Jackson countered. Vega made her decision. "Dr. Ford, Dr. Katri, you're with me. Lieutenant Wei, keep the ship ready for immediate departure if necessary. Major Jackson, you have command until we return. If we don't check in every 30 minutes, your priority is returning to Earth with our findings. The three humans stepped through the airlock into a corridor that seemed to shift subtly as they walked, adjusting to their height and movements. The gravity was Earth normal, the temperature comfortable. Everything felt eerily accommodating. They were met by three entities similar to Nexus but with significant variations in color and limb configuration. None spoke aloud, but words appeared directly in the human's field of vision, seemingly projected onto their retinas. Follow. The tribunal awaits. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with hundreds of alien beings of at least 24 different morphologies. Some floated in transparent containers of liquid, others hovered on anti-gravity platforms, while still others stood or perched on various surfaces. All turned to observe the humans as they entered. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform where 7 particularly large entities presided. The tribunal, Vega assumed, and above them, a massive holographic display showed Earth, rotating slowly. Nexus appeared beside them. The evaluation of species 3742 Delta, designation human, will now commence. The arbiters have assembled to determine whether your kind represents an acceptable risk to galactic stability. On what basis are we being judged? Vega demanded. We've barely begun to explore beyond our own system. Not on what you have done, Nexus explained, but on what you will do. Observe. The holographic display shifted, showing scenes that Vega recognized as Earth, but not the Earth she knew. Cities burned. Weapons of incomprehensible power tore landscapes apart. And humans, altered and augmented almost beyond recognition, commanded fleets of warships that devastated alien worlds. This is not reality, Chatri protested. We don't have this technology. We haven't done these things. Probability analysis indicates a 78.3% likelihood that humanity will develop along this path within the next 300 years, Nexus stated. We have observed this pattern before. Young species discover interstellar travel, encounter other civilizations, feel threatened, advance their military technology aggressively, and eventually become conquerors. You're condemning us for crimes we haven't committed, Vega said, her voice tight with controlled anger, based on a prediction. The arbiters exist to maintain galactic stability, Nexus replied. Prevention has proven more effective than cure. You will be given opportunity to defend your species, but know that the burden of proof rests with you. Vega looked around at the assembled aliens, judges, jury, and potentially executioners for all of humanity, and realized the true weight of their mission. They hadn't come to make first contact or establish relations. They had come to fight for humanity's very right to exist. And somehow, she had to win. The trial of humanity. The chamber of the tribunal fell silent as the holographic images of Earth's potential future faded. Commander Vega stood rigid, mind racing through implications and possibilities. Her training had prepared her for hostile environments, unexpected crises, even combat, but not for defending humanity's existential right before an interstellar court. You will be provided quarters, Nexus announced. The trial will resume after one rotation of your planet. You may prepare your defense. As they were escorted to their assigned space, a surprisingly Earth-like suite of rooms, Dr. Ford broke their stunned silence. This is insane. They can't just judge our entire species based on statistical probabilities. Apparently, they can, Chatri replied grimly. The question is what we do about it. Vega paced the room, analyzing. We need more information. Who are these arbiters? What authority do they claim? Are there other species that have gone through this process? And most importantly, Chatri added, what happens if we fail this trial? Their quarters included access to what appeared to be an information terminal. After some experimentation, they discovered it responded to their inquiries, providing carefully curated data about the arbiters and the galactic community they oversaw. The picture that emerged was both fascinating and terrifying. The arbiters were not a species, but a coalition of the 12 oldest spacefaring civilizations, self-appointed guardians who had maintained relative peace for over 20,000 years. Their method was simple: identify potentially disruptive new species early and evaluate their probable impact on galactic stability. Look at this. Ford pointed to a section of text. 73 species have been evaluated over their history. 48 were deemed acceptable risks and permitted to develop naturally. 21 were placed under various forms of quarantine or technological restriction. And the other 4? Vega asked, though she suspected the answer. Ford swallowed hard. Complete neutralization. The term was clinical, but its meaning was clear. 4 species had been judged too dangerous to exist and had been systematically eliminated. "They're playing God," Jackson said over the comlink when they reported their findings. "Who gave them that right?" "The same thing that gives any power its authority," Vega replied. "Superior force and the willingness to use it." Further research revealed a complex political landscape. Not all members of the galactic community supported the Arbiter's methods. A growing faction called the Emergents advocated for a more inclusive approach, arguing that diversity, even potentially dangerous diversity, strengthened the galactic ecosystem. But they remained a minority voice, lacking the military and technological advantages of the older civilizations. When they returned to the tribunal chamber, Vega had developed the outline of a strategy. She wouldn't try to deny humanity's capacity for violence that was evident throughout their history. Instead, she would focus on humanity's capacity for change, for self-correction, for moral evolution. The 7 judges took their positions, and the chamber filled once more with observers. Nexus announced the commencement of proceedings, and a new entity floated forward: the prosecutor, designated as Axiom. "The case against humanity is simple," Axiom began, its translated voice resonating through the chamber. "They are aggressive, territorial, hierarchical, and possess exceptional technological adaptability. Historical analysis of their development shows rapid weapons advancement, regularly outpacing their ethical frameworks. Most concerning is their biological response to threats. They become more creative, more determined, more dangerous when opposed." The holographic display showed scenes from human history: wars, atrocities, environmental destruction, alongside projections of potential future technologies and their devastating applications. We present as evidence their own historical records, their media which glorifies conflict, their biological stress responses, and comparative analysis with 19 previously evaluated species with similar characteristics. Of those 19, 17 became significant destabilizing forces. The remaining 2 self-extinguished before achieving interstellar capability. When Axiom finished, Vega stepped forward. The weight of billions of human lives rested on her shoulders, but her voice remained steady. "The prosecutor has presented a carefully selected slice of human history and potential. I don't deny that humans can be violent, territorial, or aggressive, but that is not the complete picture." She gestured, and Dr. Capri transmitted data from their research database to the central display. "Alongside every war in our history, you'll find movements for peace. Beside every tyrant, you'll find those who fought for freedom. For every technology we've developed for destruction, we've created 100 more for healing, learning, connecting, and understanding." The display showed new images: international cooperation after natural disasters, the ending of various forms of oppression, scientific breakthroughs in medicine and environmental restoration. "You claim to judge us on probabilities, but your analysis omits a crucial variable: our awareness of our own destructive potential. Throughout our history, we've recognized our darker impulses and worked to overcome them. Our literature, philosophy, and legal systems are filled with this struggle, this constant effort to be better than our baser instincts." Murmurs rippled through the gathered aliens. Vega pressed on. "You show us a future where we become conquerors, but I offer an alternative probability: that we continue our pattern of moral growth, that the species that once divided itself by skin color now sees the fundamental unity in all sentient life, that the civilization that nearly destroyed itself with nuclear weapons now recognizes that cooperation brings greater benefits than conflict. Axiom countered immediately. Noble sentiments, but your actual behavior when threatened remains predictably aggressive. Your ship arrived armed. Your first instinct upon hearing of this trial was to consider escape or resistance. Because survival is a fundamental right, Vega replied. Would any species willingly submit to extinction? Your very trial proves our point. You respond to perceived threats with overwhelming force rather than understanding or cooperation. This caused visible discomfort among some of the judges. Vega had struck a nerve. One of the 7 judges, identified as Elder Sephim, addressed her directly. You speak of moral growth, yet your species has repeatedly failed to transcend its tribal origins. You still organize by nation-states, you still compete for resources, you still prepare for wars among yourselves. Yes, Vega acknowledged. We are imperfect and unfinished. But consider this, we are having this conversation at all. When you sent your signal, we could have ignored it or responded with hostility. Instead, we came to learn, to understand, to connect. Does that not suggest possibilities beyond your simulations? The debate continued for hours, with Axiom presenting damning evidence of human aggression and potential danger, while Vega and her colleagues countered with examples of human cooperation, empathy, and ethical development. The tribunal members asked probing questions, some seemingly sympathetic to humanity's case, others clearly skeptical. During a recess, Dr. Ford made a discovery in the information terminal, details about the 4 species that had been neutralized. What struck him was a pattern. All 4 had been judged without any representatives present. Humanity was the first to ever face the tribunal directly. That's our edge, Vega realized. It's harder to eliminate a species when you've looked them in the eye, heard their voice, felt their passion. When the session resumed, Vega changed tactics. I request permission to present a simulation of my own. After brief deliberation, the judges permitted it. Cactri uploaded the program they had hastily created. This is a simulation of galactic development with humanity included as a cooperative member, Vega explained. Note the cultural exchanges, the scientific collaborations, the diplomatic bridges we could build between different philosophical approaches. The simulation showed human adaptability used not for conquest, but for connection. Humans serving as intermediaries between vastly different species. Human creativity generating new solutions to ancient problems. Human determination applied to galactic-scale challenges. We don't ask you to ignore the risks we might pose, Vega concluded. We ask you to consider the cost of eliminating our potential contributions. The universe is vast and filled with challenges no single approach can solve. Diversity, even dangerous diversity, creates resilience. As she finished, a commotion erupted at the chamber's entrance. A group of aliens pushed their way in, led by a tall, crystalline entity that Vega recognized from the information terminal as a representative of the emergence. The tribunal has violated protocol, the crystalline being announced. A judgment of this magnitude requires consensus from the Galactic Council, not unilateral action by the arbiters. Elder Sephim rose. Delegate Nixara, you disrupt these proceedings illegally. And you conduct them illegally, Nixara countered. The humans speak truth. Your methods increasingly mirror the very threats you claim to prevent. 3 systems have already pledged to withdraw from the compact if humanity is condemned without full council review. The chamber erupted in multilingual debate. Vega caught Nexus watching her with what seemed like curious respect. You have caused quite a disruption in our established order, Commander, Nexus said privately. Perhaps that validates some of our concerns. Or perhaps, Vega replied, it validates my argument about the need for change and new perspectives. After hours of heated deliberation among the judges and various faction representatives, Elder Sephim announced their decision. Humanity will be granted probationary status. You may continue your development and limited exploration. Under observation. In 200 years, your case will be reviewed based on actual actions rather than projections. Additionally, you will be assigned emergent advisors to facilitate integration into galactic society. It wasn't complete victory, but it was survival. More importantly, it was opportunity. As they prepared to return to the Pathfinder, Nyxara approached them. Your defense was impressive, Commander. But you should know, the outcome was never certain. There are many among us who see the Arbiter's power as increasingly problematic. Your species became a focal point for a much older conflict. You used us, Vega realized. As much as you used the division among us, Nyxara acknowledged. Politics transcends species, it seems. What happens now? Katri asked. Now, Nyxara's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been amusement. You become players in a game far larger than your solar system. The Arbiters will watch for any sign of the darkness they fear. The Emergents will court you as allies in our push for reform, and countless other factions will seek to either help or hinder your development based on their own interests. Sounds like politics back home, Ford muttered. Vega considered this new reality. Then we'll do what humans have always done. Adapt, learn, and try to build something better than what came before. As the Pathfinder disengaged from the Concordance Ring to begin its long journey home, Vega composed the message she would send ahead to Earth. How could she explain what they had discovered? That humanity had been judged and narrowly avoided extinction. That they were now part of a complex interstellar political landscape they barely understood. In the end, she kept it simple. First contact achieved. We are not alone, we are not unwatched, and our actions from this day forward will determine humanity's place among the stars. Prepare for a changed world. Behind the Pathfinder, the ancient ring continued its silent orbit, watching and waiting to see which probability humanity would fulfill, savior or destroyer, partner or conqueror, inspiration or cautionary tale. The choice, for now at least, remained theirs to make.